Okay, let's unpack this. You're thinking about a brand new home, maybe using a VA loan. Simple enough, right? But here's something that might surprise you. The VA doesn't just, hand over the loan approval for new construction and cross their fingers.
No, not at all. There's actually a whole system, checks and balances, really, to make sure that new house is sound, built to last.
It's interesting because, the goal is home ownership, but for new builds, it feels like there are extra steps compared to buying an existing place.
Exactly. The VA is backing this thing from the ground up, so they've got a vested interest in the quality. It makes sense.
And that's where their construction inspection process comes in. It's pretty crucial.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what we're digging into today. We've got parts of VA Pamphlet 26-7, revised Chapter 14. It's all about these inspections. Think of this as like your shortcut to understanding this key part of getting a VA loan for a new build or even a major renovation. It can seem kind of complex otherwise.
It can. And knowing this stuff can definitely save you some potential headaches down the road.
Yeah.
It protects your investment.
Totally. So this chapter, it lays out the groundwork, right?
Yeah. It covers the main reasons for the inspections, the different stages you go through as the house gets built, and how they handle inspections for different types of projects. It's pretty comprehensive.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the key bits, the really important nuggets from this chapter, so you, listening, get a clear idea of how these VA inspections work and why they matter.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Why does the VA even bother with these inspections? What's the core purpose?
Well, the main goal, really, is to make sure all the work, both on the actual property, the house, the driveway, that kind of thing.
The on-site stuff.
Right, on-site. And also the off-site improvements, like maybe the connection to public sewer or utilities in the neighborhood, that all this work matches the construction plans the VA already approved.
Okay, makes sense. Matches the blueprints.
And, importantly, that it all meets the VA's minimum property requirements, the MPRs. These are kind of the VA's basic standards for safety, structure, sanitation, that sort of thing. Chapter 12 actually goes into all the details on MPRs.
Gotcha. MPRs are the baseline. So what are the consequences then? What happens based on what the inspector finds?
Well, if everything checks out, you get a clear final inspection report. That's basically the green light for the lender to close the loan.
Okay, smooth sailing. But what if? What if things don't match the plans?
Well, if the inspector finds deviations, things built differently than planned, the VA might have to reassess the property's value they initially estimated.
Okay.
Could affect the loan amount, maybe.
Potentially. And here's the big one for you. If the property flat out fails to meet those minimum property requirements, those MPRs, then it's just not eligible for a VA loan. Period. It's a non-starter.
Wow, okay, so those MPRs are really critical.
Absolutely fundamental. This brings up a good point then. Does the type of inspection change depending on the situation? Like, is it always the same process?
No, it actually varies. The guidelines lay out different scenarios, and the inspection requirements shift based on what kind of construction you're dealing with.
All right, let's break that down. What are the main scenarios?
Okay, first up, if you have a house that's either just proposed or already under construction, and it doesn't have one of those 10-year insured protection plans.
Okay, no 10-year plan.
Right. In that case, you're typically looking at the full set of VA inspections, usually 3 stages throughout the build. Or there's an alternative.
Which is?
Just a final 3rd stage inspection if, and this is a big if, the local building authority in that area does inspections that the VA considers acceptable for those earlier stages.
So the VA has to trust the local inspector's work for the early phases.
Exactly. They need confidence in that local oversight.
Okay. Now, what if the house does have that 10-year insured protection plan? Proposed or under construction?
That streamlines things a bit. If that plan is in place, usually only the final 3rd stage inspection is required by the VA.
Why the difference?
The thinking is that the 10-year plan already provides a certain level of quality assurance and protection, so the VA doesn't need to be quite as involved in the earlier stages.
Got it. That makes sense, like an extra safety net. Okay, what about existing homes? Say someone's buying an older house and doing a massive renovation with a VA loan.
Yeah, for existing construction, getting major alterations, improvements, or repairs, the VA handles it more on a case-by-case basis.
So no hard and fast rule?
Not really. They'll look at the scope of the work and decide what inspections are needed. Could be the standard stages, could be special inspections. Sometimes, for simpler jobs, they might even just let the lender certify that the work was done correctly.
Okay, flexible. And what about specially adapted housing for veterans with specific accessibility needs?
Right. For SAH cases, the standard procedures generally apply, but there's obviously a special focus on those adaptive features, making sure they meet the veteran's specific needs according to the approved plans.
And if you have questions on SAH,
the go-to person is always the VA Specially Adapted Housing Agent for that region. They're the experts on those specific requirements.
good to know. Okay, so we know the types of inspections. How do you actually get an inspector assigned? How does that process kick off?
Typically, the VA tries to keep it fair and efficient. They usually assign an inspector from their approved roster, their fee inspector list, at the same time they assign the appraiser.
So appraisal and inspection assignments often happen together.
Often, yes, early in the process. But there's a slight variation. If the person asking for the appraisal doesn't want them assigned together, maybe because VA staff is doing the valuation, then the inspector can be assigned later when the official notice of value is issued.
Interesting. And I saw something about multiple inspectors.
Yeah, for really big projects like a whole subdivision being appraised under one master appraisal, the VA might actually assign several inspectors to share the load, just for practical reasons.
Okay. And what about builders who want to get a jump on things? Is there a way to speed up the inspection side?
Yes, there is. It's called an early start assignment. This is basically for builders who are ready to go and want to avoid potential inspection delays later.
How does that work? An early start.
The builder can actually make a formal written request to get an inspector assigned before the appraiser even gets involved.
Oh, okay. Any catches?
A few big ones. They have to put it in writing, they have to acknowledge they understand this special procedure, and crucially, they agree to pay the inspection fees even if a VA notice of value is never issued for that property.
Ah, so the builder takes on some upfront risk.
They do. And they also need to provide the complete, properly certified construction plans right away. So it's a way to potentially save time, but it requires commitment from the builder.
Right. So once the inspector is assigned, whether early or standard, how do the actual inspection appointments get scheduled as the building progresses?
The builder drives that part. As they complete each major phase of construction, they contact the assigned VA inspector directly to schedule the inspection for that stage.
And the inspector documents everything on a specific form.
Yep. It all goes on to VA Form 26-1839. That's the official compliance inspection report. Every stage, every finding, it's recorded there.
Okay, VA Form 26-1839 Compliance Inspection Report. Got it. So let's dive into the stages themselves. What exactly are they looking for at each point? Sounds like there are usually 3 main checks.
Generally 3, yes. But that first stage actually has a couple of variations depending on the location and, well, the ground condition.
Variations, how so?
The VA actually tells the builders, lenders, and inspectors in a specific area which first stage option they should use.
Okay, so option 1 for stage 1.
Option 1 is often called completion of excavation. This is usually done in areas where checking the soil that the foundation will sit on the bearing soil is particularly important before they build on it.
Makes sense. Check the ground before you build. What are they looking for besides the dirt?
Well, besides the soil itself, they check a couple of other things. One is kind of administrative, but important. Making sure the builder had the Equal Employment Opportunity poster displayed. VA poster 26-83-1.
Seriously, a poster check?
Yep. And the Spanish version, too, in areas where that's relevant. If it's not displayed, the inspector can actually stop further inspections until it is.
Wow. Okay, noted. What else at excavation?
They're looking at the condition of the formwork, the temporary molds for the foundation or the trench itself if forms aren't used. And critically, they verify the house's location on the lot, how deep they've dug compared to the street level and surrounding grade, making sure it all aligns with the approved plans and those MPRs we talked about.
Okay. What's the other option for stage 1?
The other common one is completion of foundation.
So after the foundation is actually poured or built.
Exactly. This inspection includes everything checked at the excavation stage, plus a close look at the foundation itself.
What specifically about the foundation?
They examine the size, the location, the condition of the footings, the foundation walls, any piers or columns supporting the structure. They also assess the quality of the materials like the concrete or masonry and the workmanship. Things like damp proofing to keep moisture out, and the foundation drainage system are also checked here.
All right, so stage 1 is either excavation or foundation check. Covered. What comes next? Stage 2.
Stage 2. This one focuses on the construction below the main house structure, the superstructure that wasn't already checked in stage 1. So maybe remaining foundation elements, waterproofing, drainage components.
Okay, finishing up the below ground stuff, then what?
Then they move up to the superstructure itself. The framing, the walls, the roof structure. They're looking at the materials used, the quality of the work, how well the details match the plans, and whether the structure is suitable for all the finishes and equipment that come later.
So the bones of the house, basically.
Pretty much. They also check the layout. Inside, are the rooms and openings the right size and in the right place? And they look at the rough-in for the mechanical systems.
Rough-in, meaning?
That's the initial installation of the plumbing pipes, the heating ducts, the electrical wiring before the walls are closed up. They check that it's positioned correctly for fixtures later, that it doesn't mess with the structural integrity like cutting through too many joists, and that the systems look like they'll operate correctly once finished.
Gotcha. Now, wasn't there an exception mentioned for stage 2?
Yes, good point. For modular construction, a second stage inspection is generally not required.
Why is that?
Because modular homes are built mostly in a factory, under controlled conditions, and they usually undergo different state-level inspection processes there. So the VA typically doesn't need to do that intermediate check on site.
Okay, that makes sense. Factory checks cover it. All right, brings us to stage 3, the final inspection. This sounds like the big one.
It really is. This is where they verify that all the work, everything specified in the plans, is acceptably complete, both on-site and off-site.
Let's break that down. What are they looking at on the exterior during stage 3?
A lot. Compaction of any fill dirt brought in, the final grading of the land to make sure water drains away from the house, all the utility connections, walkways, driveways, any garages or sheds, retaining walls.
The whole yard, essentially.
Yeah, landscaping too. Safety features like railings on porches, how well the house is protected from weather paint, caulking, flashing around windows and doors. The quality of the masonry pointing, and just the overall look, materials, installation quality, and finish of the entire exterior structure.
Wow. And you mentioned offsite stuff is also checked here.
Critically important, yes. The inspector looks at the offsite utilities, storm sewers, neighborhood drainage, the grading around the property, curbs, gutters, street paving, including the base layers of the top surface, and any erosion control measures in the area.
So they're checking the neighborhood infrastructure related to the property, too.
Absolutely. It all has to function together.
Okay, that's the outside. What about the inside at stage 3?
Inside, they're checking, again, design, materials, equipment installation, all the finished surfaces, walls, floors, ceilings, cabinets, trim work. They test the operation of the plumbing fixtures, the heating and cooling systems, the electrical outlets and lights.
Making sure everything actually works.
Right. Quality of hardware, like door handles and locks. Quality of tile work, glass installation, any linoleum or similar flooring, even things like proper ventilation in attics and crawl spaces.
Very thorough. What if the house has its own well or septic system?
In that case, the builder needs to provide evidence, usually documentation from the local health authority, showing that the private water supply and sewage disposal systems were installed correctly and are approved. The inspector verifies this documentation.
Okay. And this final inspection, stage 3, it requires specific documentation, right? You mentioned the form VA Form 26-1839.
Yes, that final compliance inspection report needs some key things. It has to include 2 photos of the property, usually diagonal views showing front and rear, capturing the house and the site grid.
Pictures are required.
Yep. And a detailed written description of the condition and readiness of everything, equipment, fixtures, visible construction. The inspector must note any shortcomings, even small cosmetic things like scratches or doors that stick.
So even minor flaws get noted.
They should be. The report also needs confirmation that any significant issues, poor workmanship, defects, deviations from plans were documented. And if it's part of a master appraisal, any optional upgrades specific to that house need to be listed, or it needs to state no options were included.
It really feels like they're trying to catch everything before closing.
That's the goal. Protect the veteran, protect the VA.
You also mentioned special inspections. When did those happen?
The VA might call for a special inspection at any stage if there are unusual site conditions, if the builder is using unconventional construction methods, or, frankly, if that builder has a history of complaints.
So if there are red flags.
Pretty much. And for those major alterations on existing homes we talked about, the VA decides the timing and number of special inspections based on the project itself.
Okay. What if an inspection turns up problems? Something's not compliant. Do they just come back later?
Yes, that's called a re-inspection. It's required if a first, second, or special inspection finds non-compliance on work that's going to be covered up soon, like foundation waterproofing before backfilling. They need to see it fixed first.
Makes sense. Check it before you hide it. What about the final inspection?
If the third stage inspection finds things are incomplete or not compliant, a reinspection is usually needed then too. Unless the issues are really minor and the VA field station agrees to waive the reinspection. But in that case, the lender typically has to certify that those minor items were corrected before closing.
Okay, some flexibility for small stuff. But what if somehow an inspection gets missed entirely? Like stage 1 just didn't happen. Can that be fixed?
It's not ideal, but yes, sometimes it can be addressed with a waiver request. The lender and the veteran have to submit a written request to the VA field office.
What else do they need for a waiver?
They need proof that the local building authority did inspect the work at the stage the VA missed. If the local authority didn't inspect at that stage, then the VA inspector has to provide a statement based on their knowledge of the builder and the project, confirming likely compliance. And if HUD is involved in the loan somehow, you need their consent too.
Sounds like a bit of paperwork to fix a misstep.
It is. Definitely better to get them done on time.
We touched on local inspectors. It sounds like the VA sometimes relies on their work.
They can, yes. Those first and second stage VA inspections can potentially be waived if the property is in an area where HUD accepts the local building authority's inspections for its own programs.
So if HUD trusts them, the VA might too.
Often, yes. But importantly, even if stages 1 and 2 are waived, the VA always requires its own third stage final inspection by a VA fee inspector. They always want that final VA sign-off.
Got it. Final check is always VA. Are there times they won't rely on local checks, even if HUD does?
Yes. The waiver doesn't apply to specially adapted housing grants. The VA always does the full inspection suite there, and it doesn't override any other specific VA requirements.
And the lender still has record-keeping duties.
Absolutely. Even if stages 1 and 2 are waived, the lender's file needs that clear third stage VA report and the local occupancy permit or equivalent proof that local standards were met.
Makes sense. Double-checking. Can the VA change its mind about relying on local inspections? Like if things go downhill in an area?
They certainly can. If the VA starts noticing a pattern of too many construction problems or a spike in complaints about homes in a certain jurisdiction, they can decide to stop relying on those local inspections and bring back their own full first and second stage inspections for that area.
Okay, so they monitor the quality. Let's shift to manufactured homes, the ones treated as real estate. Are the inspections the same?
Similar, but slightly different. They still need a first inspection, mainly to check that the home is properly secured to the foundation. And they definitely need the third, final inspection to verify all the on-site work like driveways, utilities, and any off-site improvements.
What's missing then?
The second stage inspection is generally not required for manufactured homes. Again, because much of the structure is built and inspected in the factory.
Okay. What about a used manufactured home being moved onto a lot? That seems more complicated.
It is. There are extra inspections needed after it's set up on the new site. These have to be done by qualified third-party inspectors, not necessarily the VA inspector.
What kind of extra inspections?
Separate checks for water and plumbing systems. There's a specific VA form for that, 268731A. Same for electrical systems, Form 268731B. And for fuel and heating systems, Form 268731C.
Wow, specific forms for each system. Anything else?
Yes, you also need certification that the roof coating was applied correctly after setup. Interestingly, the lender is sometimes allowed to handle or certify this roof coating part.
And the bottom line for manufactured homes?
If any of these required inspections, foundation, final, or the system checks for used homes come back unsatisfactory, that loan is not eligible for a VA guarantee. Full stop.
Okay, very clear. Now, here's a practical question. Construction timelines can be tight. What if the house is basically done for the final inspection, but say the kitchen appliances aren't installed yet or the carpets aren't down? Does that hold everything up?
Not necessarily. The VA allows some flexibility here. Things like appliances and most finished floor coverings can actually be installed after the third stage inspection, right before closing.
Oh, really? Are there exceptions?
Yes, two key ones: bathroom flooring and wood finish flooring. Those generally need to be in place for the third stage inspection. But other stuff like carpet, vinyl, appliances, those can wait.
Okay, so how does that work logistically if the stuff isn't there for the inspection?
It has to be documented very clearly on that third stage report, the VA Form 261839. The report needs to list exactly what items are being delayed, brand, model number if possible, where they'll be installed.
So specify the exact fridge or carpet going in later.
Precisely. And then a specific section on the form needs to be marked as a pre-final report approved, indicating that the lender is required to do one last check before closing.
A check by the lender.
Yeah, the lender has to certify, they've personally verified that the exact items listed in the report were installed satisfactorily just before the loan closes.
And does this delay require a new VA value assessment?
No, typically a revised notice of value isn't needed just for this delayed installation procedure as long as it's documented correctly.
Okay, so clear paperwork and a final lender check are key. Once all these inspections are done, reports filed. How do lenders use them? What's their role?
The inspector sends copies of the report that Form 26-1839 to the lender and the builder and keeps one. If they don't know who the lender is yet, they give 2 copies to the builder, who then has to get one to the lender.
And the lender's responsibility before closing.
It's significant. Before they close that loan, the lender must make sure all the inspection requirements listed on the VA notice of value have been met. They need to confirm any non-compliance issues found during inspections were fixed to the VA's satisfaction.
Okay.
They also need to verify if appliances or flooring were delayed, that what was installed matches what was described in the 3rd stage report. And just ensure that final report has all the required info.
And they keep all this paperwork.
Yes, absolutely. All inspection reports and related documents must be kept in the lender's permanent loan file.
Got it. Last big topic area, changes. Construction plans aren't always set in stone. What happens if something needs to be changed midway through when a VA loan is involved?
Right, changes happen. If a veteran is already under contract to buy the house, they have to be the one to formally request the change in writing.
The veteran requests it. What if no one's bought it yet?
If there's no veteran under contract, then the builder, lender, or whoever is proposing the change has to certify in writing that the property isn't currently under contract.
And is there a specific form for changes?
Usually, yes. For most changes to the approved plans and specs, you need to use VA Form 26-1844. That's the official request for acceptance of changes form.
Okay, Form 26-1844 for changes. Are there times you don't need that form?
A couple of exceptions. If there's no veteran involved yet, and the change is just swapping out, say, a furnace for another one of equal value, a simple mechanical equipment substitution, the fee inspector can sometimes just note that directly on the regular inspection report and update the plans.
Okay, simple swaps might be easier.
Right. The other exception is if HUD did the initial inspection. The changes are minor. They don't cost the veteran extra, don't change the property's value, and the veteran agrees. Things like moving an outlet slightly or changing faucet styles, those might just be noted on the HUD report.
Gotcha. Now, who approves these changes? Let's say it's a change that doesn't affect the property value.
For changes that don't impact value or delete items, the VA fee inspector actually has the authority to approve the change request form, that VA Form 26-1844, right there on site, as long as it's properly filled out and signed.
The inspector can approve it directly?
Yep. They sign it, give the original back to the builder to pass to the lender, and keep a copy. The builder needs to have a copy of the approved change order at the job site too.
Okay, but what about bigger changes? Things that do affect the value or maybe remove something that was originally planned?
Those need to go to VA staff for approval. Changes affecting value involving deletions, significant deviations, or substitutions of entire house plans, those typically require VA staff review.
And how does that approval come through?
Usually via an amended notice of value. The VA issues an updated NOV reflecting the change and any impact on value. This is also common if original NOV conditions need changing or legal requirements shift.
How does everyone find out about these VA-approved changes?
If VA staff approves it via an amended NOV, they mail a copy directly to the veteran who's buying the home. A copy goes in the VA loan file, and the lender gets notified electronically through their system, TAS.
And if no veteran is involved yet?
Then the amended NOV is attached to the original one in the file, ready to be mailed out once a veteran applies for the loan on that property.
Okay. One last thing on changes. Can the VA take back its approval?
Yes, they can. If the builder violates any of the specific conditions of acceptance listed on the back of that change request form, VA Form 26-1844, the VA can withdraw or cancel their approval of that change.
So you have to follow the rules even after the change is approved?
Definitely.
Wow. Okay. We have seriously covered a lot of ground today on these VA construction inspections. If you had to boil it down, what are maybe the 2 or 3 most crucial takeaways for our listener?
Okay. I'd say first, just recognizing that the VA has this really quite detailed multi-stage inspection process for new builds. It's not just a quick look. It shows they're serious about standards.
Right. It's thorough.
Second, remember that while, yeah, it protects the VA's financial interest, it's fundamentally there to protect you, the veteran home buyer. It's about ensuring you get a well-built, safe home.
That's a great point. It benefits the buyer directly.
And maybe third, that final third-stage inspection is really the key checkpoint. That's the comprehensive review, where everything on-site and off-site gets scrutinized before the loan closes. It's the final okay.
Absolutely. And understanding this process, like you said, it really empowers you if you're looking into new construction or a big reno with a VA loan. Knowing these checks are happening can save headaches.
Definitely. It helps you know what to expect and why things are happening the way they are.
So here's a thought to leave you with. Knowing the level of detail involved in these VA inspections designed to protect both the VA and you. What does that maybe suggest about the importance of choosing a builder who's actually familiar and comfortable with these VA requirements from the start?
That's a really pertinent question to consider. And for anyone wanting to dive even deeper, the full VA pamphlet 26/7 is out there, and checking out Chapter 12 on those minimum property requirements would add even more context.
Excellent point. Thanks so much for breaking all that down today. It was incredibly informative.
My pleasure. Glad we could shed some light on it.